All right, initiating Critical Threat Intelligence Advisory. I'm issuing a Code Ninja security advisory right now for a newly disclosed vulnerability that fundamentally threatens a perimeter of the entire Apple ecosystem. Let's dive right into this intelligence protocol. What we're looking at is CVE-2026-64774. It's a single, severely critical integer overflow hiding out in core input validation code, and it is exposing millions of devices. We're talking iOS, iPadOS, macOS, tvOS, and yes, even visionOS, to unauthenticated remote attacks. As a white hat researcher, my objective with this explainer is incredibly straightforward. I'm here to give you the immediate mitigation intelligence you need to force vendor patches and lock down your networks, well before threat actors can weaponize these memory safety flaws.
So to understand exactly what we're up against, just look at the CVSS version 3.1 base score of 9.8. That officially classifies this as an absolute critical threat. But what does a 9.8 actually mean for you in the field? It means a network-accessible, incredibly low-complexity attack vector. It requires zero privileges from the attacker, and, much more importantly, it requires zero user interaction. This is a true zero-click danger, folks. An adversary can remotely trigger this flaw without the target ever clicking a link, opening an email, downloading a file, or authenticating a session. Literally nothing.
And because of that absolute massive severity, the defense ecosystem had to move incredibly fast, executing a highly compressed coordinated vulnerability disclosure, or CVD. Look at this timeline. At hour 0, that was July 27th at 17:17 EST, we saw initial vendor ingestion as Apple basically dropped 6 concurrent security advisories and pushed the CVE to the National Vulnerability Database. Just 19 hours later, CISA ADP intercepts the disclosure for enrichment, locking in those critical scoring metrics. By hour 21, the NIST NVD had entirely finished its initial technical parsing, mapping out the exact boundaries. Honestly, seeing a timeline move this fast visually proves that federal cyber coordinators and the vendor consider this a Tier 1 active threat.
Okay, I'm going to pause this rapid-fire intel flow just for a second to establish a secure comms link directly with you. Secure comms check. Are you receiving this intelligence clearly at your perimeter? Because in the world of critical zero-day disclosures, information asymmetry is absolutely our biggest enemy. Think about it. If threat actors have this data, and you don't, your perimeter falls. It's that simple.
So, consider this your mandatory security protocol for maintaining our link. Step 1. Subscribe to @cybertech79 immediately. Step 2. Enable your real-time notifications so you do not miss the next critical advisory when it drops. And Step 3. Drop a like on this briefing to formally ACK or acknowledge your receipt of this intelligence. Doing this ensures the algorithms prioritize your defensive posture. All right, link established. Let's proceed.
Moving right along to Phase 3, the deep dive and protocol initiation.
The core weakness driving this whole zero-click nightmare is categorized as a CWE-190. That's an integer overflow or wraparound. Basically, this happens when an arithmetic operation tries to create a numeric value that's just way outside the representable range. Think of it like an old car odometer maxing out at 999,999 and then just rolling right back over to zero. Well, in Apple's operating systems, inadequate or completely missing input validation allowed exactly this to happen. When remote, unauthenticated input isn't properly sanitized, an attacker can literally manipulate the underlying arithmetic of the app, forcing the system to misallocate memory.
Now, this arithmetic manipulation basically gives us two main exploit primitives. On one side, you've got unexpected application termination. This is essentially a denial of service. The system crashes just because it has no clue how to handle the overflow. It's annoying for sure, but not catastrophic. But on the other side, we have remote heap corruption, and this is the critical threat. Heap corruption is rarely an attacker's end goal. Instead, it acts as a highly reliable stepping stone for full remote code execution, or RCE chains. An attacker corrupts the heap so they can inject their own instructions and bypass the security sandboxes entirely.
And this chart right here brilliantly illustrates the absolute consensus among security agencies regarding the threat level. The legacy CVSS version 2 score absolutely maxed out at a 10.0, right alongside that modern CVSS version 3.1 score at 9.8. But here is the kicker. CISA ADP specific stakeholder evaluation categorized the technical impact of this vulnerability as total and explicitly marked its exploitation process as automatable. When a vulnerability is both total in its impact and automatable over a network, well, that means automated scanning and exploitation scripts can compromise devices at a massive scale.
Now, let's talk probability. Looking at the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, or EPSS, it's currently sitting at 0.00244. That means there's roughly a 0.244% probability of active exploitation in the wild over the next 30 days. Now, you might look at that tiny statistical sliver and think, hey, I've got time. Actually, scratch that. You do not. While the short-term probability is currently low, active tracking on platforms like Threat Radar marks this as a critical, trending threat. Good defensive posture dictates that we have to act before weaponization occurs, definitely not after the exploit code goes public.
So, what is the blast radius surface? Well, unfortunately, this isn't just an iPhone problem. The vulnerability spans the entire modern Apple ecosystem. We are talking about mobile devices running iOS and iPadOS, desktop fleets running macOS Sonoma, Sequoia, and Tahoe, and it even extends to their embedded and extended reality platforms like tvOS and visionOS. Bottom line? If it runs a modern Apple operating system, it's sitting right in the crosshairs of this integer overflow.
Okay, to neutralize this threat, you have got to implement these required target baselines. These are explicit, uncompromisable patch levels. For iOS, iPadOS, macOS Tahoe, tvOS, and visionOS, you've got to update to version 26.6. For macOS Sequoia, your baseline is 15.7.8. And for older macOS Sonoma deployments, you need to reach 14.8.8. Anything sitting below these exact version numbers remains wide open to remote heap corruption. Apple has essentially baked improved input validation logic into these specific releases to permanently kill that integer overflow condition.
So, here are your final marching orders as a defender. Step 1. Verify your current fleet build status against the official Apple advisories, specifically 1280.066 through 1280.072. Step 2. Force immediate patch deployments across all network endpoints. And guys, I really cannot stress this enough. Because this is a zero-click vulnerability requiring absolutely zero user interaction, your end users cannot protect themselves through safe browsing habits. Defensive configuration relies 100% on forcing these vendor-supplied updates across your perimeter immediately.
All right, bringing us to Phase 4, ethics, disclosure, and our sign-off. As white hat researchers, we operate on one fundamental principle. Users need to know to protect their systems before threat actors weaponize memory safety flaws. Coordinated vulnerability disclosure is never about causing a panic, right? It's about forcing necessary fixes. It's balancing transparency with absolute defensive urgency. But this intelligence only protects your perimeter if it actually reaches you, the defenders, in time. By breaking down CVE-2026-64774 for you today, we're equipping you to slam that window of opportunity shut for the adversaries.
The intelligence has been delivered. The threat mechanics are clear, and your mitigation targets are locked in. Now it is entirely on you to execute your patch management workflows. Lock down those endpoints, verify your builds, and maintain your vigilance. The adversary's window is closing right now. So will you patch your perimeter today, or will your network be tomorrow's headline? Stay secure